Welcome, everybody. And first, I always want to thank our sponsors, ASICS and Volvo and Electrolit and all the other sponsors that make us happen with the LA Roadrunners. And thanks for all of you for tuning in, and those of you who are watching at home, the replay. Tonight, we are going to, let's get rid of this screen here. Thanks very much. There you go. That's me. And that's the book I wrote. Here we go. So tonight's chat, we're going to talk about caffeine, cold, and positive motivation to get you to overcome the cold and other things. And we'll also talk a little bit about gels and caffeine and all that stuff. So here we go. Dive into it. Caffeine. Caffeine is the best performance enhancing drug there is. It is the only real legal performance enhancing drug there is. That's the best. But there is no real magic pill. On the other hand, if you take tons and tons of caffeine, probably at a point where you really don't want to go, it will make you really jittery, most of us. You can have actually as much as 10% increase in energy output on your race, whatever that race is. But here's the problem. If you drink caffeine regularly, your body becomes accustomed to that caffeine intake, right? So you have to kind of wean yourself off of that caffeine. But then there's another, in order to feel the benefits of that caffeine during the race, you're not going to feel your adrenaline kick in and your energy spike and get going faster because you just took a gel with caffeine in it, unless you taper off all of that or most of that caffeine that you're taking in every day. I mean, if you're drinking more caffeine than what you're taking in on race day, every day, you're really not going to feel any difference, right? It's not going to spike your adrenaline or anything because your body's used to it, right? So here's the problem, though, with tapering off caffeine. If you go cold turkey, this is an addictive drug like anything. If you go cold turkey, you could have actually severe headaches from withdrawal. You could have jitters from withdrawal. So basically, the way to get off caffeine in order to reduce your intake for a marathon or a half marathon, although this half marathon 10 days away, if you're a really big coffee drinker, you really won't be able to get there and have any benefits from caffeine for this 10 days from now, the half marathon. But for the marathon, something to really start thinking about now, because we're only after Sunday, we're 9 weeks away from the marathon. So here's an idea. Cut your intake by about a quarter of a cup of coffee or tea. Obviously, coffee has way more caffeine, so you want to cut less. Tea, you could cut more, but it's less caffeine. But what you want to do is slowly cut that drink of caffeine, whatever it is, coffee, tea, whatever, a little bit every day, like a quarter or a half a cup less every day until you got nothing. And then go for like a couple of weeks with no caffeine, with no tea. Then on race day, you really will benefit from that. Whoops. Whoa, I jumped to yeah. So obviously don't take caffeine if you're hypertensive, if you have high blood pressure, if you tend to get jittery, if caffeine makes you jittery. Don't take caffeine. You don't want the ill effects from those, the negative effects from caffeine. If you have negative effects from caffeine, don't do it, regardless of the benefits. So let's jump to cold. Here we go. Enough of caffeine. And I'll take questions later. I can't really see the chat bar right now, but we'll get to questions later. You can either type them in or scroll your cursor across the screen and click on chat and type them in. Or later on, you can scroll your cursor across the screen and click on your mute button so I can actually hear you talk. But for now, let's keep going. So it is okay to get wet. I mean, we all do it, all human beings. It's a human thing. We sweat, we swim, we hopefully take showers, like I do at least once or twice a month. Okay, maybe more than that. But regardless, the real key element to being wet or in the rain is staying warm. And the key to staying warm is wearing multiple layers, even like a jacket that could be a raincoat or not. But again, it's okay to get wet. But maybe a jacket that if it warms up, you can, tie around your waist. Those are always really good. The problem with cold weather is and I read this in a Runner's World article, not pretty recently. Whoops, jumping the gun here. I read this in a Runner's World article recently, and I'm trying to move that screen around a little bit. There we go. Is you have a greater risk of injury in cold weather because cold weather tightens your muscles, right? You can all probably imagine you go out in the cold and you're feeling really, really cold and everything tightens up, you start shivering, your muscles are tighter. So you have a greater risk with those tighter muscles. Same thing if you're not flexible, you have a greater risk, which tighter muscles are, that's an inflexibility. You have a greater risk of injury. You also have a greater risk of cramping because if your muscles are really, really tight, you're going to be fatiguing the muscle more. And one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons for cramping is fatigue. So if your muscle's really, really tight and you're trying to run with that or walk with that tighter muscle, you're going to be putting more effort into using that muscle, and therefore it will fatigue faster. Therefore, a couple miles in, you may find that you start cramping just from cold. I do find that the warm-up that we do at track, which is a little more extensive than what we do at Griffith Park or Santa Monica or Newport Beach, a little more extensive than that. I do find that before we were really doing that, people did start cramping more. And we have reduced the risk of cramping just from people doing a little bit of a warm up. We're talking muscle activation, jumping up and down, kicking your leg out, kicking your leg back, that kind of thing, squats, all those things that we do before our run, walk, or walk on Saturdays or Sundays really have, and especially on track where we do even more, really have reduced cramping, I find, because it's cold out and you're warming your body, you're warming the muscle. Cold also costs energy, right? Your heart rate wants to warm your body up. So in order, you do generate heat from all over your body, and your heart wants to circulate that heat through blood, right? So if you're cold, your heart rate, same with heat. If you're cold, your heart rate is going to beat faster to circulate that heat around your body so you can stay warm, so you can relax the muscles. Unfortunately, in raising your heart rate, you're depleting glycogen. Because remember, as your heart rate goes up and up and up and up, your glycogen, your fat consumption comes down and down and down, and your glycogen consumption goes up and up and up and up. So the more you deplete glycogen, the closer you come to hitting the wall. So that's something to consider when it's really, really hot. Your heart rate is elevated as well to get rid of the heat, to get the heat out of the pores in your skin, the epidural layer of your skin. Your outermost layer of skin releases sweat, releases heat. Your heart rate is higher. Therefore, you can utilize more glycogen from a higher heart rate. Same thing with the cold. So you really, when it's really cold, when it's really hot, you really need to slow it down for less risk of injury, going slower, and also less consumption of glycogen, less getting closer to hitting the wall. Does that make sense? Now, here's something you can do to remedy the cold, right? There is a guy in some Nordic country. I can't even remember. I don't remember his name right now. At any rate, he has lectures and things you can find on YouTube. Wim something. At any rate, the key to being in the cold, the key to even being in cold water like the ocean right now is probably about 56, 57 degrees, if even. The ability that some people have to go out there in that cold water is the ability to relax. And if you just relax like anything, if you can inhale slowly and exhale slower, you can relax your body and do that with repetition. Same thing with calming yourself down. Just inhale, hold it in, and exhale slowly. And slowly you can cool your body. You can relax your body from that tightness that the cold gives you. Also, while you're walking briskly or jogging, you can slowly warm your body up, and at the same time focus on relaxation and just dealing with the cold from a standpoint of I am now going to relax. The other thing you can do is if you're really cold and you're really shivering and you've been out there and it's been cold water and you're depleting your energy and you're on an 18-mile run and it's been raining cold the whole entire time, go home, jump in your warm shower. Water actually is the best conductor of any temperature. It's like water and ice is the best conductor of cold if you want to reduce inflammation. And warm water in your shower or even in your bath, especially, is the best way to heat your body up, heat your body temperature up. We all have a body temperature, and that body temperature will go up with heat and will go down with a cold environment. Jump into an ice bath, your body temperature will go down. Jump into a hot sauna, your body temperature will go up. So after you're shivering and you're cold, jump into a warm shower, jump into a warm bathtub, anything like that, and your body temperature will warm up really, really quickly. Water does that. And moving on. So, positive motivation. What do you do when it's really cold out there and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, it's raining, it's cold, it's windy. What do I do? Well, no, don't go home. I'm sorry, that was my wife talking behind me. Anyway, being fun. Anyway, positive motivation, positive self-talk is absolutely a greater behavior modificator than negative self-talk and negative talk. So, for example, you could say to yourself, well, the greater the volume I do, the better the ability I will have, the greater the fitness I will have. Or if I do this, if I run in the cold and the wind and the rain, I will be a better athlete. I will have greater mental toughness and the ability to deal with cold, rain, and wind and whatever, far better than I do now. And I will benefit from this. So let's go do it for all of those above reasons. Fitness, mental toughness, all of those positive behavior modification, self-talk things are great. Or you could say to yourself, it's cold and rainy. I gotta do this. Oh. And you can just shove yourself out the door, count to 10 and throw yourself out the door. Problem with that is whenever, positive behavior modification works far better than the negative, always any study on psychology will always tell you that. Not even a question here. But when you go out the door with a negative attitude, even something as simple as smiling, there have been studies on runners smiling. I apologize, I never saw one on walking, but I'm sure it's the same. On runners smiling, and the true story, if you smile during a marathon, you will have more energy. That's what studies indicate. Just from smiling, doing nothing else but smiling, you will have more energy. If you motivate yourself with positive self-talk rather than, oh, I got to do this, oh my God, you're going to have a more, not just enjoyable experience, but you're going to have a more positive result from the workout. Negative that, you're probably going to be slower and sluggish, and you're going to be tighter and uncomfortable. And it's just, I just threw myself out the door, rather than, I'm going to do this because it's going to benefit me. Have a reason for whatever it is that you're doing. Have a motivating reason to do it. There is a shoe company who I will not mention, and their slogan is, just do it. And I always want to know why. Why? Why do I want to just do it? And what is it exactly that I'm just doing? I always wanted to ask somebody from that company that very question. And they have a very positive, they have a very long-standing logo. Just do it. Like, why? Get a new logo. Leave me alone. Stop annoying. Rule one of LA Roadrunners is you need to have fun. And there is another reason why we have that moniker, is because the positive behavior modification definitely enhances the overall experience and your ability level as well. So there you have it. That's pretty much it for my discussion that I planned today. I think we have one more. That's it. I always like to end with this: train smart and train to win, because if you don't, you won't. And if you do, you just might. So with that, let's go back to getting rid of this. And here we go. There we are. So does anybody have any questions about any of that I just talked about? Cold, caffeine, positive self-talk, any of that stuff. We'll get into a little more about gels in a minute. Obviously, gels do have caffeine in them. And they're also an easy way to get caffeine. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
I like what you said, because I live in a cold climate. I live in Northwest Arkansas, and we had snow on Tuesday.
Oh
And
my.
I went out for my run, and the snow was blowing in my face. And I came back in the house before my husband went to work. And I said, the snow is blowing in my face. And he said, you're training, mind over matter. And
or better yet, you're training, but going out there will be a positive thing for you to develop fitness.
That's what he said. He said it's mental toughness, and he's former military. So we used to live in upstate New York, and he said, remember, I had to do PT and freezing rain with boots and rucksacks and all that. So I did. I went back out. I was prepared. I had hand warmers in my gloves, everything.
Good.
And I ran in my neighborhood, and as the people were going to work, they were waving. And I took pictures because I had gone to get some new shoes the day before, and I knew it was forecast to rain. So I asked one of the guys at Rush Running, I said, hey, what's your recommendation? Because he's a coach at one of the universities. And he
Mm.
said, run. I said, really? He said, yes. So I went back on yesterday to pick up some shoes, and I showed him the picture, the evidence. And so I got major, high fives for getting out there in the elements and running. But I used to live in California, in Southern California. So
Got
I'm
it.
accustomed to the weather out there. And I was there over the holidays, and I did go and run at Newport Beach. But
Oh,
and
right,
everybody asked why was I training. This would be my first marathon. I've run several halves, but first marathon. I said because
right.
the weather. I started running when I lived in California, so I wanted that to be my first marathon. So
Cool.
we are forecast for bad weather this coming weekend, my long
Oh,
run,
oh,
and
I know.
then um, below, I mean, single digits next week. So I'm going to try to
Mm.
do the treadmill, which I don't like, but that's going to be my option because it's going to be negative degrees, and I'm not going to get out there and run in that. But thank you for
Yeah, I
having a
mean,
segment on running in the cold and running in inclement weather, because it's true. You never know what the weather's going to be on March 17th either. The rain could be
yeah, yeah,
rain.
true. It will not be between 0 and 10 degrees, I will tell you that.
Right, for sure, for sure. But it could be raining.
Yeah, we've had cold, windy rain, absolutely. And first, I have to say, high five for you. You know, the big high five. And that's extraordinary. I know I've run in snow, and it can actually be fun as long as you wear, several layers, Um, but
Right. And then, but it was so true. I feel because it has been cold lately here over the last really 3 weeks. And so I can feel, I'm doing a lot of mobility exercises prior to running, but still the stiffness is such a different atmosphere running in cold temperatures as opposed to running, 50, 60 degrees. So I do notice that difference, but I'm not worrying about my pace. I'm just worrying about getting the miles in and making sure I'm safe. So it's been
perfect.
good.
Yeah, I must say that's a place where like trail shoes can actually be a benefit, where it's icy out, even,
Yes.
just having a trail shoe can be a benefit to push your way through the snow or whatever.
Okay. I
Especially,
will do that. I
I,
have some trail shoes. I probably need to get some new ones. So I will do that. Good
well,
idea. Thank you.
the one nice thing about a snow is it's not level. So a new pair of shoes won't help that much, because snow, it's like, I don't know, it's like thick sand sort of. Um,
Yes.
so honestly, I'm not suggesting you get a new pair of shoes, but if you have a pair of trail shoes and you're going in the snow, it will help you with slipping. Because,
Okay.
yeah, and again, even the ice is uneven.
Right. Yes.
So new shoes are great. They're flat, they feel wonderful, but you're not going to feel any of that in the snow or the ice. So yeah, keep the old cruddy trail shoes and wear those.
Okay. Okay. I
With,
will do.
and keep the new shoes kind of nice for, LA Marathon. I have to ask you, are you a McCourt Foundation, a TMF person?
Um,
Are
no,
you a
no.
charity
Why?
fundraiser? Oh, okay.
No.
I had to ask because we have a lot of charity fundraisers in other cities. So, but welcome aboard. I'm glad you're with us. And I'm
Yes,
glad,
no, this was just something I wanted to do. My daughter ran when was in middle school in 2014, and did the run with the middle schoolers, LA run. And so she ran the
oh,
marathon in 2014. So she's kind of it'll be 10 years uh, to
did
the
she
date
run
really
with,
that she ran.
wow, did she run with Students Run LA?
Yeah, yeah,
Was
she
that,
did. Yes,
yeah,
she
got
did.
it. Got it. Yeah, they actually have a dispensation so they can run younger. There is a rule, most all children cannot run the LA Marathon unless they're one of two things: 16 years old or older, or they're a member of Students Run LA, like your daughter
Yes,
was. And you
yes, she
said that
did it.
was 15
That
years
was
ago.
in No, that was 2014. That was 2014. She was
Oh,
14 years
okay.
old. She was in eighth grade, and
Wow.
she's back in LA at USC in grad school. So it's kind of bittersweet for me she's going to come and
Oh,
watch me run and all that. And so she, I watched her through the whole training. She pulled up at mile 19, injured her leg. And so I was there
oh,
waiting. And I said, "Are you going to stop?" She said, "No, ma'am, I trained too hard, Mom." So I ran the last 7 miles with her, and she has her
oh,
medal, and I mean, she
wow.
did it. So super proud. This was in
Yeah,
2014. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm assuming in grad school she won't have time to train, but she'll be out there watching you this time. Is that?
Right. Yes, she did a
Oh,
5K. She did the Frosty 5K at Angel Stadium this past December. So,
oh,
um,
nice.
yeah,
Well, maybe in the near future when she graduates, and has more time on her hands. I know grad school is extremely time consuming. Maybe she'll join us, LA Roadrunners, in Santa
that's what I
Monica.
told her. I've encouraged her too. I said, "Listen, you're close by, so they run them. They have runs on the weekends." But she's like, "I know, Mom, but I just don't have time." So, in
No,
time, yeah,
grades will do her well the rest of her life, but when she's done, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you and her. Good for her.
yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's a great story. Um, and how fortuitous of you to be there at mile 19. Now, I gather she wasn't like just breaking down. She was just hurting. And when you
No,
saw her,
she hyperextended her knee. Her knee was pretty banged up. So I went to the aid station and they, taped it
with
up
her,
and put some stuff on there and we limped our way through, but she finished.
wow, good for her. Well, that's a lot of mental toughness right there and
And
fortitude. I am sure that will serve her well the rest of her life.
yes, that was one of the turning points for her in life. And really, she wrote about that on her college essays as well.
Oh,
That being able to, the perseverance of being able to train and run, a marathon at 14,
it's
and
such a
never been a
young
runner, and
age.
had never been a runner before. So it was
Wow.
great. Yeah.
Wow, good for her and good for her. She's in grad school. That's
Yes,
extraordinary. Maybe the courage for that came a little from running. I
I think
I
so.
yeah, I do know a lot of not everybody, but a lot of people. It will change your life,
Yeah,
it will.
this is definitely going to change my life. Once I
Oh,
completed it, I started running when we moved to California. I was at age 48, so I'm 58 now. So this is just something that I'm excited about. I have the time to train, so I've been training, and I just want to finish, and I want to have fun doing it. So, my mind
great.
is 25, but my body says otherwise. I've had a couple of meniscus tears and
Oh,
both
yeah.
knees scoped. So I'm really just I'm
Mm.
having fun.
Good, good. And like I said, just keep smiling. It'll even give you a little more energy just from smiling and have fun
Yes,
out there,
yes,
you know.
indeed.
And don't go out too fast, everybody. That's a whole other
Oh,
lecture.
I'm not. I remember when you said it on the one of the other series talking about don't go out too fast because people usually tank, at mile 13 because you've gone out too fast. And I remember that when I was doing the halves, that's what I would do. I would go out too fast, and by the time I got to the finish line, I'm like,
Mm.
man, I went out too fast. So I have consciously that is etched in my mind. So I am not going out too fast.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but one of the kind of earmarks of Students Run LA is really the need to hold them back more because so many of them just go out too fast. Students Run LA, they just don't know better, I mean, they're kids, they're teenagers or
Yes,
whatever. But obviously you have that experience, unlike what your daughter had. Hopefully she didn't go out too fast. But anyway, she probably would have benefited from some strength training around her knee area,
yes,
stretching. God
yes,
knows, I don't know what her issues were, but you know, all that stuff helps. But thank you
yes,
so much for sharing. That's a great story. Running in the snow and 0 to 10 degrees
yes,
next week.
yes, yes, yes. I'm not. It's supposed to snow tomorrow, but
Oh
my run
my.
is not until Saturday, and it'll be a little warmer. But next week is going to be, yeah, single digits. So I am a warm weather person. I grew up in Texas, and
Mm.
California is my happy place. So I'm looking forward to coming back.
I hear you. Good Lord. And there's nothing wrong with a treadmill. You know, you do use slightly different muscles when you're on a treadmill. So yes, if all you did was run on a treadmill and little run or no running on land, you know, you would find treadmill running easier, faster than running on land because those slightly different muscles. Um, or if you did nothing but run on land and you jumped on a treadmill, you would probably find running on the treadmill more difficult than running on land. Whatever you do more of becomes the more efficient, easier thing. But that said, there are plenty of pro athletes in your position where it's either like the desert, 110 degrees, or it's 0 to 10 degrees out. And they train on a treadmill. They train on an indoor bicycle, you know, triathletes. They even have indoor garage, what they call an endless pool, where which is like in their garage, this big, tall swimming pool that has a jet. You know, it's may only be like 10 feet wide or long. And the jet kind of pushes against them and they swim against the jet and they're basically swimming in place. And it's indoors and it's heated and they do very well. Those pro athletes, triathletes and marathoners, both. So
Should I have
nothing.
it on should I have the treadmill on the incline when I do run on the treadmill?
Well, if you're doing aerobic running, if your motivation is to build endurance, you know, the ability to go farther, the ability to consume fat, all the same thing, right? Because
Hmm.
the fat is a more abundant reservoir as a resource for fuel than carbohydrate. Um, so when you want to go farther, we're talking about fat consumption because we have way more of it. That's really what endurance means, is more efficient fat consumption. So fat consumption is more at lower heart rate. Glycogen from carbohydrate is more at higher heart rate. We're using both right now while we're sitting still at low heart rate, but more fat, less carbs in the form of glycogen, right? So you want a low heart rate in order to build endurance. So if that's your motivation, you know, an incline will raise your heart rate. If your motivation is to raise that threshold where you're still using fat as a resource for fuel by doing like a threshold run or like a repetition or interval training kind of run, something that's really going to raise your heart rate way up there and force your body over a longer period of time, I should say, a period of time, generally shorter than the long distance efforts you do on the weekend, always shorter than that. Um, then you want to go high heart rate. Then you want to raise the elevation on your treadmill. But if it's low heart rate endurance building is your motivator, um, keep it flat. I, I know there was a long way to go to answer that question, but hopefully I did. And
You
Mary,
did. Thank you. Thank you. You did.
you got it. Sure. And anybody else, any questions, either verbally or in the chat box? Let me check the chat box. I think we have one. Someone mentioned that the person who does cold water um, he teaches people to deal with cold water with relaxation techniques, mostly breathing techniques. And his name is Wim Hof. I couldn't remember his name. Wim, last name Hoff, excuse me, Hof. And he's actually set some world records on being in an ice bath longer than anybody, on swimming underneath you know, in the ocean, what do you call it? You know, an iceberg. He swam underneath, I think it was like a 300-foot iceberg with just a pair of swim trunks and no top, no wetsuit, no nothing, and set a record for that. And an amazing human being. I'm not sure I want to go through all of that training that he does in the cold water and all that. Um, but that's the guy. If you ever want to see an interesting video, go to YouTube and type in Wim Hof, WIM space HOF, and you'll hear some interesting videos from this kind of oddball sort of guy. It's the only way I can describe him. But at any rate, there you go. Uh, let's see. So Sumali, thank you very much for that. Uh, Orly just did an ultra, I forgot, from last week. Congratulations if Orly is online. I'm not sure if she is or is not. But congratulations, Orly, if you're online.
I'm
Uh,
here.
I had a feeling you might. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nothing
I don't
like
know if
what was
I,
it, 5,000 foot vertical climb over the course of a ultra marathon.
yep, yep. And if I could write a book about, I mean, I'm not bragging. I swear to God, I'm not bragging, but this is like all thanks to you as well. But if I could write a book about a perfect run, a perfect training season, like almost perfect, like nothing is perfect, but
No.
as close to perfect as possible, like in 33 miles, 5,000 foot climb. I didn't hit the wall. I mean, yeah, it was tiring, it was painful, but I didn't take any painkillers. I didn't take, you know, I didn't take any rest breaks. I didn't like none of that. No hitting the wall. I was fueling right. I was hydrating right. I took it extremely easy at the beginning. I was cruising for most of it. I took it easy on the uphills. I was sprinting on the downhills. I PR'd over an hour. I like and like you were in my head of like, you know, volume like I hit a lot of basically most of my training um when I heard about my mom. So I put
Mm.
like all of that into the training, and I kept telling myself volume, 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 just keep running, just keep running, just keep running. And I stuck with it, and lo and behold, you're right. And I
Who
did
knew?
something different um with my fueling the week before. I
Mm.
didn't have a big meal the day before. I had my biggest meal 2 days before. Like
Mm.
you always say, like you always say. So I think I think you have something going there.
Who knew? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
all along, I thought I was just winging it.
no, 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 no. No, I mean it I don't know. I was shocked. I like no blister, no like I didn't lose any toenails. I didn't Nothing
Mm.
was bleeding in my shoes. Like I like thank God, thank God, thank God, thank the universe, thank the spirits, the nature, whatever is out there that you believe in. It worked.
It worked. You were on, so people know, you were on Catalina Island the entire time doing a 50K, which is considered an ultra marathon. Did you see
Yep.
any buffalo?
I didn't. I kept looking, and it's my second time. I mean, well, the first time was miserable, but I
Oh,
kept looking, and like somebody said, "Oh, it's gonna be right after the stables when you see the horses, and it's gonna be on your left." And I kept looking, and I slowed down so much just so maybe I don't miss them, but unfortunately, I didn't see any.
I have a feeling the buffalo were behind the hills with, binoculars, and they were watching you. Those
I
buffalo,
don't know, but yeah, it was like as close to a perfect race that I could have imagined. Like,
That's extraordinary.
and yeah. And Lucy was there, and Lucy did amazing. She like flew by me. I started an hour before, like 50 minutes before the official gun time, because they allow
Mm,
you to start if you want, like either 1 hour or 2 hours before.
mhm, mhm.
And then she caught up with me at around mile 11-ish,
Okay.
and she flew by and she finished 2 hours before me, 2.5 hours before me.
Oh, yeah. Lucy is a strong runner. Also, Susie, for one of our pace leaders, also ran it last weekend as well.
Oh,
You
okay.
probably didn't. I didn't know that until after the fact. I did not know that. Anyway,
No idea who she is, but maybe if I see pictures, something will click.
also a faster runner.
Yeah, well,
I want to say she's in groups 5, 6, something like that.
oh yeah.
7, something, one of those, something like that.
No, but I surprised myself. Like I really surprised myself. I was like, in my head, I was like, it would be cool to do it in 8:30, and for some reason that 8:30 kept playing in my head for months and months and months, and I did it in 8:27, which is
Wow.
a miracle.
Wow. Good for you. Yeah,
Thanks.
it's a ultra. You did it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, with a lot of hills. Um,
Tons of
so
hills.
I just want to say, DJ, thanks for joining us. We'll see you in Pasadena as long as with hopefully everybody else. I just saw his post, his text, his on the chat bar. But excellent. Well, anybody else have anything the verbally or in the chat box that you want to type in or anybody? Anybody going once? Going twice? Well, don't forget, we'll see everybody in Pasadena this Saturday. Newport Beach is still going on Sunday. So if you're near Newport Beach and you want to do it on Sunday, the same mileage we're doing at the outside the stadium, you could do it in Newport Beach with us. It's an amazing, amazing place to run a run, walk, or walk. And we're actually doing a little different area now. We're going to be running on some lawn for a short period. So that's going to be some fun in Newport Beach above the Back Bay. So we're doing that. Anyway, anybody else verbally or in chat? I'm just going to turn off the recording and I'll stay on for a little while in case anybody's got more. But anybody going once, twice, 3 times? In that case, I'm gonna stay on, but I'll say goodbye to all of our people who are watching this recording. And thank you for watching. And we will see you all at the finish line.